passed away here, Brahmananda Swami and Kurmarupa Prabhu. So we are the vanishing species. Probably this is the last time I am speaking. Hopefully not. But I joined in 1972. Actually, I joined in 1971 in Detroit, Michigan in USA. I was an engineer and I had gone there for further studies. I had absolutely no idea about spiritual life. Just like any other Indian man goes to America for making material progress, I had gone there, and in 1971 one of my friends took me to Detroit temple, and there I saw American devotees and boys and girls. They were nicely dressed in dhoti kurta and saris, and they were dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. And then I heard one lecture on Bhagavad Gita, and I felt I was born in India, but I did not know systematically anything. And they were very well trained, very well versed. So who has done this miracle to them? Then they said, he is a saintly person, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who came from India and who has propagated these teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So the first day I bought one long Krishna book, like this almost. And it was weekend. I started reading at 9 o'clock when I went back home. And 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock I read almost 90 pages. And I was convinced on every page I felt like the whole ancient world was coming to me. Prabhupada has given such nice description, such nice explanations. Krishna book is a very interesting book to start with, for starters. So I was convinced on the very first day that this man is a great saintly person. I had a smoking habit. It took me one day to finish it, throw it away, and I became a devotee. So I started going to the temple regularly and started chanting. In June 1st, Prabhupada was coming to New York, 1972. So I asked the then president of Detroit temple, was Bhagavan Das. So Bhagavan Das was being transferred from Detroit to France. So he said, there is going to be 500 devotees. If I can, I will introduce you to Prabhupada. So I went there to New York with him, not with him, separately. And I reached New York, and there was 500 devotees in Brooklyn Temple, old Brooklyn Temple, not new temple, 439 Henry Street. So there were devotees sleeping on the staircase everywhere, all over the building. They were very simple devotees. So I realized that I am not able to personally meet Prabhupada, but somehow, second day of Prabhupada's visit, Bhagavan Das took me in and he introduced me to Srila Prabhupada. This boy Janak is from India and he is very educated and he is becoming very interested in reading your book. So Prabhupada said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I am from Surat, Gujarat, India." So he said, "Oh, Surat is a very nice place. I went myself for 3 hours, 3 weeks, and they gave me the best reception in the whole country. It's a very nice populace there. So if there is, what are you doing? I am an engineer. If you are successful in making money, then build a temple there." By Prabhupada's grace, now we have 6 temples in Gujarat, and Surat is one of them. We have beautiful Radha Krishna, Radha Damodar Mandir, and Srinathji Mandir, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra and Gaunitai. So in first 5 minutes of my meeting, I had got an order from Prabhupada. When I went back, I was feeling very lucky that I had met such a great personality. I felt like I met Krishna. So, and it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, "Tulayama lavenapi na swargam na punarbhavam bhagavad sangi sangasya martyanam kimatasya." Even a moment's association with a pure devotee cannot be compared with reaching heavenly planets or even liberation. There is no greater blessing for a person in the material world than meeting a pure devotee. Somehow we have no qualification, but this one blessing cannot go away, we cannot wish it away. That out of 6 billion people in the universe, we were some of those who got squeezed in those 11 years and met Prabhupada and saw Prabhupada. So I felt very greatly obliged, greatly fortunate. I wrote a letter to Prabhupada that by Krishna's grace, I have read now your Krishna book, your Bhagavad Gita, and the other books I am reading. And as I am reading, I am recognizing more and more about your contribution to human society and so many other things. How Lord Chaitanya is God and how He is presenting absolute truth to the world. So Prabhupada liked the letter very much, and he replied to me that now if you want to be my student, I can accept you immediately. So I wrote back, and he said that thank you for your letter, it's very nice sentiments. I'm sending this letter for publication in Back to Godhead magazine. So the first letter that I wrote, Prabhupada published in Back to Godhead No. 48, and he offered me initiation. I said, "You are coming in New Vrindavan, so I will take it personally from you at that time." So in New Vrindavan 1972, on Janmashtami day, I got initiated, and Prabhupada gave me name Jaswamati Nandan Das. In Bengali, generally Y is pronounced J. So Prabhupada pronounced Jaswamati Nandan Das. That's my name. So after that, Prabhupada asked me to shave my head, and I felt embarrassed. So I became a full-time temple devotee in Chicago and started distributing books at the airport. It was just being opened. And on the trains in Chicago, subway trains. So 1973 I distributed books. And I felt I was quite successful. And I felt very happy distributing books. I gave up all idea of engaging in material activities from that time onwards. In 1974, 1973 again, 1 month later I wrote, and Prabhupada personally came to know me, and he said, now you are a full-time devotee, I request you to go to Bombay and look after you are a civil engineer, look after the construction of ISKCON Bombay. But so in 1974 I came back to India, and from then until now I am staying here in India. 74 and 75 I stayed in Bombay, but at that time was very political atmosphere, and the local councillor, Mr. Pushpakant Matre, was very antagonistic to building a temple, Juhu temple. So he had influenced the police to not give us the no objection certificate which is required for temple construction. So in 1974 I didn't go to Mayapur because that was the first international festival. Because Prabhupada asked me to continue working on that NOC. Then 75, Prabhupada came. When I asked him that you had wanted me to start a center in ISKCON Gujarat, Prabhupada said, yes, you go. Like that I had two or three times, different times I asked. So Prabhupada said, you asked me so many times and I gave you permission so many times. You go and start it now. So in 75 September, we had a big Pandal program in the main city of Gujarat, Ahmedabad. And Prabhupada came and gave a lecture for 7 days. And there he met a gentleman who was the head of one village, one taluka, district. So he invited Prabhupada to come back. Prabhupada said, right now I have another program of going to European countries, but I can come in December. So in December, last week, Prabhupada came back again to Sanand, and he spent 10 days with the villagers. They were both very special occasions for us to see how Prabhupada preached in India, how he tackled people in the cities and villages. And in villages, Prabhupada would sing only one line. No, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And then he would repeat, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So only out of the two lines, half a mantra he would sing, and he would ask them to repeat, and then another half a mantra he would sing and ask them to repeat. Prabhupada loved the village program very much. He said, this is what I want to do. This is what I wanted to do. And he gave us all his precious association. While we were in Bombay in 1973, first I was in Los Angeles when Prabhupada was living, first came to, after New York, first I met Prabhupada in Los Angeles. And on the beach, Los Angeles, Prabhupada gave lectures. Mostly he would address Swarup Damodar Goswami and give scientific lectures. That became a book called Life Comes from Life. On the Venice beach he would walk every morning for 1 hour. So one day, just by chance, I asked him if I can massage him at night. So Prabhupada said, he smiled, he said, okay, you come tonight. So ever since then, every time I was with Prabhupada, the night massage I gave to Prabhupada, because the servant was very happy because he was going massage 1.5 hours in the morning. So night somebody else would give it, it would be better. So in Bombay when he came, I started to give, we were spending almost whole day with Prabhupada, 12 hours with Prabhupada. He would, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he would welcome the guests and preach them about Krishna consciousness. He kept 3 versions of Bhagavad Gita on his desk, including Radha Krishnan Gita, Mahatma Gandhi's Gita. And he said, and he would read from that and say, look, these people are giving me interpretation. They are speculating on Krishna. And therefore, nobody is respecting Bhagavad Gita because they believe that Krishna is fictitious character, imaginary character. But since I am not a great scholar, but I am a devotee of Krishna, and Krishna is a historical fact. Kurukshetra is a historical fact. So, when we believe Krishna consciousness, we mean personal Krishna. And he would tell his version of Krishna consciousness to the guests that came. Many prominent guests came. One thing is Prabhupada's message was very simple, but he never compromised with his message. Everybody would be very clear when he left him that his Krishna consciousness was not different from original Krishna consciousness, like Mirabai or Narasimha Mehta or Surdas. Prabhupada, we were all fond of one Mirabai or one Narasimha Mehta, one Surdas. But Prabhupada was creating Surdas and Narasimha Mehtas everywhere, all over the world. So they realized, and those who were staunch Hindus, they respected Prabhupada very much and invited him for his talks at their homes. Prabhupada was very much childlike. He was very simple. If anybody invited him, he would go to their house and speak the same thing. I am only 67, but I am half dead. But Prabhupada was 75, but he was roaring like lion. And he would speak the same Krishna consciousness enthusiastically anywhere. Same message, but it was never old because every 2-3 minutes he would quote a different verse of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from many scriptures, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, even though 75 years of age, at that time, more than 75, 77 years of age, 72, 74, 79 years of age. He never made us feel like he was 79 years old. He was, most of the devotees at that time were 20 to 30, and Prabhupada himself dealt with us as if he was one of us. So we were surprised. We were young, we didn't know what is the situation when you become old. But Prabhupada never complained. He never complained. He went on preaching. And he went on traveling also. He went to Surat, to Indore, to Amritsar, to Jaipur, to Gorakhpur, Banaras. Wherever he could, he would travel by train. In this way, in India, it was a very difficult place for the Westerners to preach. Therefore, he personally preached. He was like a temple president of Bombay. He personally oversaw the construction, oversaw the collection, oversaw life membership. We would go out all day and come back in the evening and give him reports. And he would take the reports very enthusiastically here. In the morning, there are famous Juhu beach walks where there are some other walkers who would ask him questions, challenging questions. And Prabhupada would address them, teach us by addressing them their queries. But later on, some people became offensive by Prabhupada's lectures. They became offended and unnecessarily picked up a quarrel. So Prabhupada said, okay, now from tomorrow on, we don't want to ask any questions. We'll read Krishna book. So we started reading Krishna book for half an hour going and half an hour coming. 1 hour. So we were all taking turn by turn and reading Krishna book on the Juhu beach morning walk. But there was one Dr. Patel. He used to ask many controversial questions and Prabhupada would answer them. And he would challenge them and Prabhupada would answer them. So we had a great opportunity to learn by hearing Prabhupada's answers. There was a very great advantage of being in India. In those days, India was very small preaching. So whoever was a devotee in the temple, he was Prabhupada's intimate associate. And everybody would be able to go to Prabhupada's room and hear about Krishna consciousness. From 4 o'clock every day, afternoon, till 9 o'clock, Prabhupada would preach non-stop. He would give a 1 hour Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning, sometimes in the evening, but mostly morning. And he stayed 3 months in Bombay. So it was a very good opportunity for us to hear him. Not a moment's association, but association of hours and hours of association. There was no person more confused than me, and my fundamentals became very clear in 1974 by hearing from Prabhupada. So, Prabhupada, one day we were walking on the morning on the Juhu beach, and somebody said, Mahatma Gandhi, he chanted Holy Name of Ram at the time of death. So did he become a human being? Did he become liberated? So Prabhupada said, no, he became a human being. Others become animals, but he became a human being at least, because his principles were good. But Prabhupada kept denying he became liberated. Later on, 10 years later, we heard from O.P. Mathai, his book came out. He was secretary of Jawaharlal Nehru. He said that actually Gandhiji did not chant Hey Ram at the time of death. There was no chance for him to chant. He was shot at a very close range. He didn't speak anything. And then we realized that whatever Prabhupada says is accurate knowledge. Guru mukha vado akya, chitata kariya hai kya, har na kari hai mane asa. Whatever Prabhupada spoke, whatever he wrote, whatever he did, everything was done by Krishna. He was a full representative of Krishna, 100% surrendered to Krishna. So whatever words came from his mouth are spoken by Krishna. And they are as effective as God himself spoke them. So we have, fortunately, so many tapes, so many songs, so many lectures, so many morning walks of Prabhupada, so many videos. If we associate with him, then we can have full advantage of Krishna conscious life. And in this very life we can become successful, go back home, back to Godhead. And that is what he wanted, International Society of Krishna Consciousness. He wanted an institution of pure devotees to come and associate with for ordinary men. And we can see the example here that ordinary people, by reading Prabhupada's books, they are coming to Vrindavan, they are going to Mayapur, they are enthusiastic in their life. By a man who passed away 50 years ago. This is all through his books and words and instructions. He gave the importance of reading and hearing as it is, without interpretation. Even scriptures we should not interpret, give twisted meaning to the sentences spoken by Krishna. Direct meaning we should take. Just as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Man mana bhav mad bhakto, think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage to me. So we should do it to Krishna. Krishna is declaring there, he is eternal, he is not temporary, his body is not temporary, his form is not temporary. And this was Prabhupada's message. Constantly, at least once a day, he would repeat this verse and tell whoever guests come that Krishna is a person and you accept him as a person and your life will be successful. If you accept Krishna as impersonal, there is no such message anywhere in the Bhagavad Gita, impersonal message. So, personalism became fixed in our mind because of Prabhupada association. Sometimes Prabhupada would go to the guest house, guests, and instead of speaking, he would ask us to give a lecture, and he would hear us, and later on discuss with us if there is any discrepancy in what we spoke. In this way, personally by his example, he taught everybody how to be Krishna conscious. So 75 and 74 and 75, those 2 years, Prabhupada must have spent 3 months each in those 2 years in Bombay. So 6 months, daily association of Prabhupada made us very happy and blissful. Then in 75 end, I moved to Gujarat. That is also began with this Sanand program, as I mentioned, in December. The Sanand program, then Prabhupada came with me to get a house on rent. We were supposed to buy a bungalow, but actually it was in a very distant corner. So Prabhupada said, I said this is a very distant corner, and Prabhupada agreed. So he came to 5 places to look for a house on rent. Sometimes while sleeping, in half an hour he would tell me to go away. At 9:30 he would go to sleep, and 10 o'clock he would say, now you can go. And I would go and sleep in the next room. So one day Prabhupada fell asleep, and until 1 o'clock in the morning he didn't tell me to go. So I kept on massaging, and Prabhupada woke up at 1 o'clock and he said, you're still sitting here? I said that I was waiting for you to ask me to go. So in 5 minutes he asked me to go, and in 5 minutes later turned the lights on, started translating. That's when I know that from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning, every day, he translated books. When everybody, the whole world was sleeping, then he was awake in the night, translating for us, writing books. So after 6 o'clock, he would go on a morning walk for 1 hour. His most important work of translating, he would finish it night, 5 hours, and then go to the morning walk. So he would come and give a lecture on Bhagavatam, have darshan of the deities, and then he go back to his quarters, where he would take a breakfast. It was very small breakfast, but devotees were very happy to take the remnants. And then he would dictate or translate letters. He would dictate to his secretaries. He would hear all the letters and give them replies. Then he would take his morning massage for 1 hour. Massage time also would keep on preaching, giving instructions. So his 24 hours were full of talking about Krishna. After massage he would take a bath and take lunch prasadam every day. Then he would go to sleep for 1 hour, 1.5 hours. And at 4 o'clock he would start receiving the guests. So in this way his days were practically same every day. But newer and newer, whoever came, he brought this source, જ્યારે દાખો તારે કહો કૃષ્ણ ઉપદેશ, અમારા ગાય ગુરુ હૈયા તારા એ દેશ. Prabhupada was the personification of this verse. Whomever you meet, talk about Krishna. And for him, there was no small or big persons. So, he was always free. Even though he replied letters, he ran the whole movement by corresponding. He was always free. Because he was Krishna conscious, he had no anxiety. If some devotees had difficulty of falling down, then Prabhupada would understand, this is Kali Yuga. Everybody stays is a surprise. Somebody goes is not a surprise. So, we would dispose of, when sometimes we would plan, when Prabhupada comes, this question we will ask. But when he came, there was no question in our heart. Because as soon as you see Prabhupada, all questions are resolved in the heart. They become very puny, very small, the questions. In his presence, you would not want to waste his time asking so many questions. Still, some questions I asked him if one day when Prabhupada was sleeping on the bed, Prabhupada used to say that Jesus Christ is a pure devotee, but he never named the name Krishna. So how is he a pure devotee? The Prabhupada said, he had no material desires, therefore he was a pure devotee. Brahma bhuta prasannatma, na shochati na kankshati, sama sarveshu bhuteshu, mad bhaktim labhate varam. So he gives a general definition of a Shanta devotee, a pure devotional service. And from that time on, my respect for Jesus went up. I was a sort of a little bit doubtful about Jesus, but Prabhupada made it very clear that he was a pure devotee. Similarly, I asked the Sadhu Goswamis why they were associates of Krishna. They are Rupa Manjari, they are the best of the Manjaris. Why did they associate with Muslims, kings, and became like a Muslim who was known to eating cows? So he says that they took lowly birth to give us to teach us example of how even such lowly people can become elevated by Krishna consciousness. And they felt very humble and meek because of their lowly conditions. So, such questions, difficult questions, we ask them. One time I asked, Tulsidas is a great celebrated poet all over India, especially in northern India, UP and Haryana, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh. Everybody has Tulsi Ramayana. Everybody knows the whole thing by heart. So he is very popular. But why do we say he is not a pure devotee? At that time, because of Prabhupada's strict conditions, we were thinking every other saint is not a pure devotee. Now we may, after 50 years, 40 years, we may see things differently. But in the Prabhupada's time, things were very sharp and very Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada said that In one place he glorifies Bhrugumuni. A real Vaishnava will not glorify Bhrugumuni because Bhrugumuni kicked Vishnu in the chest. Therefore Vaishnavas don't like him. So he is not to be glorified. Similarly, I asked one time that Chota Haridas was given a mission to bring rice from Madhavi Devi, and Madhavi Devi is a pure devotee. So it was a small offense. Why did Lord Chaitanya reject him? So Prabhupada says, my Guru Maharaj said that he looked upon some other woman lustfully while begging rice from Madhavi Devi. Therefore Lord Chaitanya, being all-knowing super soul, he rejected him. So like that, all questions were resolved by Prabhupada. One day a news came about somebody in New York keeping chicken and eggs in the refrigerator. So Prabhupada wrote them appropriate letters. Afterwards he said, we were present. He said, this Krishna consciousness is very wonderful, but this illicit sex is very bad. Illicit or licit, both sex are bad. Illicit is very bad. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, Janame sunadi grahamedi sukam hi tucham, insignificant, very bad. Thu, he spat like that. Thu. So, if somebody has any difficulty, he would blame it on this point. In the material world, even the great personality is sometimes subjugated by material desire, sex desires, and performs abominable activities. We should be very careful. If devotee is careful, then Krishna will protect him. But if devotee becomes lax in his regulative, especially in his regulative principle, then Maya overpowers him. Prabhupada repeatedly told us, if you are not serving Krishna, Maya will take over your control. If you are not controlled by Krishna, you will be controlled by Maya. There is no third option. So, better to be controlled by Krishna in his internal devotional service. Otherwise, devotional service have that power to even uplift the lowest of mankind from the depths of nations, ignorance. Then in 1976, we should finish now, 6 o'clock?
6:30.
Huh? So in 1970,
We start at 5. But as long as
just
you-
5 minutes,
as long as you like.
6:30. In 1976, Prabhupada came to Bombay, but I was in Ahmedabad, and by letter he gave me a lot of instructions for how to manage a 100-acre of farm that we received as a gift from Bhogilal Patel. how to develop a Varnashram community on the 100-acre farm, how to protect cows, how to live simply and set example. So that is 76 we got the 100-acre farm donated, which is there even till today. And we are growing cows, mostly 200 cows have gathered by now, and we are planting crops for them. So 77, 76, 77 was correspondence from Prabhupada, and whenever I could, I would go to Bombay and meet him. So Prabhupada was very exemplary. He had no desire for living in a brand new temple, but he chastised his disciples why they were delaying and not making his quarters ready. So even though all the rest of the tower is completely undone, somehow the fifth floor, the top floor of one tower, where Prabhupada's quarters are there today, Surabhi Swami, we prepared him. Poor Surabhi Swami, he got a lot of chastisement because of Prabhupada's hurry for making of his quarters. So Prabhupada's quarters was ready, and Prabhupada would climb up 1976 by chair. We would put a wooden support, by chair we will take him. And somehow or other, because Prabhupada wished it, but last 1 year Prabhupada stayed in his quarters in Bombay. And before going to London, 1977, he stayed again. He had a Pandal program arranged in Cross Maidan in April of 1973. So, 1973, Prabhupada was 77 years old. We were in Mayapur for an annual festival, and Prabhupada had a 2-degree temperature, fever. So we were taking turns to massage him and stay with him all night around. So one day he woke up at 1 o'clock and he said, "These scientists are rascals. They cannot produce even one fly in the laboratory, but they are taking life comes from chemicals. They cannot produce even a mosquito." All of a sudden from the dream, so even in sleep he was preaching and thinking how to defeat the modern science and the atheistic ideas. So in February, March, he stayed in Mayapur. April he came to Bombay. In May he went to Rishikesh for 1 week or 2 weeks. And then June onwards he came to Vrindavan and he stayed here till he passed away in November. So I came here in July, met Prabhupada personally, and again in October. So whenever I came, I felt like Prabhupada was personally my friend. Every devotee felt very close to him. Same thing was felt by every devotee. Whoever there is this fragrance of a pure devotee, that he gives shelter to every fallen soul. And Prabhupada was, even though sick and frail like this, like stick, still he went on preaching to whoever came to him, see him, his God brothers. So one time Narayan Maharaj came and Prabhupada asked him to sing Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. So he sang Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, Yaramara Sampada. So when in the future, one group in Navadip mentioned that Prabhupada was in a Sakhya-ras, so Narayan Maharaj opposed it and said that no, when I went to see Swamiji, he asked me to sing Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. So Prabhupada was the highest, most transcendental rasa. Just like you cannot get an orange from a lemon tree or lemons from a neem tree, similarly, all the devotees of Shad Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, all the devotees of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj are in Madhurya Ras, unless they choose not to be in Madhurya Ras. So Prabhupada gave us in his books what is the absolute truth, and that book are sufficient to give us guidance that Madhurya is the best. And naturally, he was the follower of Bhaktisiddhanta, who is, we sing every day, Madhurya Jala Premadya, Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida, Kora Sakti Sarupaya, Rupanuga Varayati. He was the best of Rupanugas, Madhurya, Prema, Ujjvala. Ujjvala Madhurya Prema was surrounded, is soaked in, so Prabhupada was also soaked in. And he was very careful not to exhibit it, because he didn't want to create a class of cheap devotees called Prakruta Sahajas. Therefore he was keeping it covered. But sometimes it came out and we saw the highest transcendental mellow Prabhupada was in. We witnessed it. We witnessed, and there is no such thing as another mistake that Prabhupada made. Srila Prabhupada was always very friendly and very, very accommodative even to his God brothers. But his God brothers, they did not know him, they did not know his contribution, and they mistreated him while in his presence. And they all felt bad afterwards, because so many of Prabhupada's disciples went to them and they realized what a difficult situation Prabhupada had worked in and how he has spread Krishna consciousness. The whole world nowadays is taking the remnants of Prabhupada. So we cannot understand how great he was. He was Mahabhagavat of the highest order, and he was favored by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. There are many others who are very exalted souls, but no one is like Prabhupada. By his every word that he stayed for 11 years, he preached. By his every word, he set his example of pure devotional service. By his every act, by his every deed, he gave the example of pure devotional service. So, for the time immemorial, time to come in the future, people will remember Prabhupada and their life will become successful. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. If you have any questions. You want to say something?
I spoke yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I was initiated at the first Cross Maidan Festival, March 27, 1971.
Ah. Actually, I went to America to become a materialist, and Prabhupada went to my town to preach Krishna consciousness. But somehow, Krishna's mercy, I came around after seeing. Prabhupada said that Indians are like new crows. The crows like to eat rejected food. Indians are like new crows. They are very enthusiastic, eating remnants, rejected food. That is why India is more political now than ever before. So I was a new crow. But somehow or other, the Prabhupada's mercy, it was a great opportunity it was a great transformation from a lot of misunderstandings to no misunderstanding, philosophically. When I went to Detroit, I used to argue with devotees. I used to resist pure devotional service. But then gradually I became one who started arguing for devotional service. Otherwise, my idea was also hodgepodge spiritual life. But Prabhupada, or his even new bhaktas, they are very convinced about pure devotional service. In those days, everybody who came forward was like a philosopher. Because Prabhupada's influence was so strong. The new books, as soon as they come, everybody started reading it. It was a miracle done that in 15 short years, Prabhupada wrote 100 books. In India, we started Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and Prabhupada made me one of the trustees. After him, Gopal Krishna Maharaj. No, not Gopal Krishna, Giriraj Swami. Later on, Gopal Krishna joined. We were doing 2-3 lakhs worth of books. Now we are doing 20 crores books. India is top world, top in the world, number one. It is only by Prabhupada's arrangement that things are multiplying. Krishna's service. So don't worry about anything. Ordinary people say Krishna consciousness has its own dynamics. Hare Krishna.
Hare